Welcome to In Focus. I'm Maggee Bleyer, and here sitting with me is District 348 Superintendent Dr. Chuck Bleyer. I especially personally have the pleasure of knowing this superintendent because he also goes by Dr. Dad in the Bleyer household. Just kidding, just Dad. But I'm very happy to interview him today. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Well, first I just wanted to ask kind of a basic question, and I remember asking Andy Shelby this back in the In Focus back in September, I believe. So how is the school year going? I know there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of positive things that have happened. Any new changes, anything that what's going on?
It's been a really challenging year. This year has been more difficult than last year. Up to this point, we had a lot. Started the year with COVID cases pretty low, but we also had to go to the mask mandate from the state. That upset quite a few people. Most of the people, though, have understood that it's just what we had to do this year, and they've been supportive of it. However, the cases then started rising rapidly in our county especially, and in our schools, but we weathered it. We got through the Delta variant, and right now our cases are very low. So what's been good is that we have not had to cancel one day of school or one athletic event. We've gone on field trips. We've attended conferences. We've attended IEMA, singing and vocal competitions. Our football team's played. Our golf team has been girls golf won state championship. So very positive as the year has progressed.
It surprises me that you say this school year is more challenging than the last school year. Why do you believe that?
The reason why is that there were a lot of unknowns to start the year, and things were thrown at us very quickly from the state and also federal government, whereas last year they gave us these reopening plans, and we had to follow those reopening plans to reopen, so we knew the parameters to reopening. This year they didn't do that. Now the state board kind of backed away from that responsibility, or I like to think that they were probably overwhelmed too, and so there were a lot of the major players throughout the state weren't really sure what to do next. A lot of new directives and orders from the governor and from the IDPH that we were trying to catch up to and follow. So very difficult this year in relation to last year. And also subs this year have been very difficult to get a hold of. So we've had a tough time manning the classrooms, but we think we've cleared the highest hurdle of this year so far.
Thank goodness, because I remember when I was in high school, subs were always such a challenge, and that it doesn't really surprise me, but it is odd, I guess. But moving on, there's been some new things introduced to the school board. I was at the November 8th Monday night school board meeting, and Ashton Gordon, she presented a new academic pre-K to the school board. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, this is a really exciting opportunity for our very young students that are in a difficult place where they may not be ready for a full year of kindergarten, but they're not really have a place at pre-K anymore, in traditional pre-K. So what this program does is it identifies the students that may be either A, struggling, or B, are they're really young, and can give them an opportunity to be in the school system and go through a school year at I wouldn't say a slower pace, but a more of a determined pace, to where they are learning what are called soft skills, which is just how to sit and how to hold a pen and how to respond to questions and raise your hand, things like that. Also learn how to write, learn how to identify letters, identify numbers. So a lot of students, we get a lot of kindergarten, I shouldn't say a lot, but we get some kindergarten students that have trouble with those skills, and when you put them in with a normal kindergarten group that has higher levels of students in there that are ready to go because maybe they've had a lot more support at home or a lot more support at a pre-K, then there's a chance that they they fall behind. And we don't want that to happen, because most of the studies out in academia right now are indicating that in early childhood, that's where most of the mistakes are made, where the student is either lumped in with a group they're not ready to, or they get held into a group that isn't the right placement, and that can cause the student to, down the line, maybe fail courses, maybe fail full years, maybe drop out, maybe they're not developmentally strong enough to move into that next level. So we just see it as an opportunity, as a tool that we can give parents and to work with these students to help them start, because they're not really ready, they're not really in a place to go back to the pre-K, which is, of course, costs us the parent money. So we're trying to grab those students, bring them into our services, and take that burden off of the parent.
This is going to be really beneficial to Wabash District 348, and it's really impressive that the kindergarten teachers and MCES principal Jake Newkirk developed this idea. It's just very impressive. So you think the goals of this are definitely going to benefit?
I don't think it can do anything other than be positive. I think it's going to be wonderful. And as was pointed out also at that board meeting, if a student is identified as needing more help, and they get into that program and then show really that they don't, they show signs that they really just needed to get caught up to speed real quick, they can test out or move into the regular kindergarten class. So positive there for the parent and for the student.
Speaking of young kids, and I mean all students at Wabash District 348, students are getting food that maybe they haven't got for lunch or breakfast before, or they're just getting different variations based on some sort of troubles happening with the cafeteria. Can you explain a little bit more what's going on with the cafeteria situation?
Yes, there's been a supply chain issue throughout the country, which I think everybody has noticed, and it has affected school cafeterias also. So it's not that a student's not going to get fed a meal. It's just we don't really know day to day what's going to be on that menu. So we've asked for patience with the community and from the parents and the students that it is food. It's something you will probably want to eat, but it may not be traditionally served at breakfast or traditionally served at lunch. It may be an odd combination, but that's what we have to work with. So when the trucks come in with the food, we don't know exactly what's coming off of them, whereas in previous years you always knew what you had coming in because you ordered them. Now you get what you get, and the cooks are just doing whatever they can. They're trying to be innovative and change it the best they can, but they many times don't know what they're going to serve at lunch one day to the next.
Now, do you expect this for you and the cooks for this to get better over time, or do you think there's going to be more struggles as this goes on?
I think we're going to continue to struggle all the way through the winter. I could see possibly maybe into the spring that we start coming out of it, but I probably would caution people to expect this all the way through the entire year, and then during the summer the supply lines will fill back up because school's not in session, and they'll be able to get those products to the schools over the summertime, and also reserves will get built up in the warehouses. So I think we're looking at an entire year, but I do want to remind people that all food, all lunch and breakfast this year is also free.
That is really nice. I remember that happening during the 2020-2021 school year as well. So it's really nice. Going on to, I think, what people are really interested in right now is the sports in the Mount Carmel community, as well as the music. I mean, marching band at the high school and even the junior high, they're now marching competitively again. And the sports have just been amazing this year. We have football going into quarterfinals. Girls golf got into state. I know the soccer and cross country they got really far into what they were going into. So do you have any comments about the extracurriculars and including FFA as well? I mean, do you just have any comments about those extracurriculars?
I think what we're seeing is we have in our district, we have some tremendous coaches and tremendous teachers, and they had a little extra time throughout the last year where they got to do a little bit more teaching because they weren't able to get onto the field as much. And I think that's been it's been borne out this year, that the students really learned a lot from last year on how to be patient. When their time comes, take it. When it's time to compete, compete. When it's time to give a presentation, like you said with FFA, they're outstanding at it. I think they learned to prepare for the moment. I think the coaches worked with them on that, constantly waiting, wait, and wait. But when it's time to go, that's when we'll go. And if you remember, like last year with basketball, we had to wait, and we started, and then we waited and waited and waited. Football, same thing last year. All the sports had to just they had to be patient. And I think it helped them. I think also a lot of the students really hit the gym over the last year and the summer. They've gotten stronger. They got mentally stronger with their agility and with their stamina. But all the way around, they're taking the opportunity now that it's there, and they don't want to let go of it, and that's really nice to see.
Now, how about academically? I mean, how are the students doing academically? I know there have been struggles in the past, and there will continue to be struggles with certain students, of course, but how do you think that has panned out?
Actually, surprisingly well. There's a term out there called learning loss that's been a new term thrown around everywhere. We have not seen that exhibited here. We are now as the year has progressed and we're in school more and more and more, day after day after day, the students are getting stronger in the classroom. And they're also not as burned out that they normally are during a regular school year because they weren't in school all last year. They're actually being, the pace is better, so we see that the performance is better. The good thing that I did notice from last year was that we have the benchmark years in testing are 3rd grade and 7th grade and your junior grade. We did do the state testing last year for 3rd grade and 7th grade on what's called the IAR, which is the Illinois Assessment of Readiness Test. And the 3rd grade and 7th grade scored extremely well last year. So now they're 4th graders and 8th graders. So that is a really positive sign. You want to see that as an administrator of a school district. You want to see those years perform well because that shows the strength in those classes. So they scored extremely well. So I'm very happy to see what happens now with our 8th and 4th grade and tracking them into the next few years because it could be exciting.
That's fantastic. So kind of getting away from students for a little bit, some of the buildings at Wabash District 348 are quite new, but some might eventually have to go over some changes in the future. So how are our buildings doing?
Our newest building is 20 years old. So we have some really old buildings, and our elementary building its life cycle is at its end. So we're right now trying to find a way to build a new elementary building. So that's on the drawing board right now. How do we get a new elementary building? That's our target number 1. Target 2 would be to rehab the high school. So target, like micro-target areas that need to be done, which we've been doing. So like the pavement around the high school did get repaved over the summer. And that took a lot of time and effort, but this 1% sales tax was the money that we used to pay for it, and I think people have been happy that those improvements have been made.
I have noticed that the pavement is much better, so that's just great. But I think that kind of wraps up our In Focus, but I do have one very important question for you. What's for dinner tonight? Gotta tell us.
I think we're having chicken with pesto sauce.
All right, I'll take it. I mean, better than pizza, but
Yeah.
but that wraps up our In Focus. I'm Maggee Bleyer, and this is Wabash District 348 Superintendent Dr. Chuck Bleyer. Catch you next time.